Kim Loan xin kính chào quý vị trở lại với chương trình Bridging the Gap. Hôm nay chúng tôi có cuộc trò chuyện với Tổng ủy viên của Sở Cảnh sát Boston, Commissioner Evans. Xin kính mời quý vị cùng theo dõi. Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us on the Bridging the Gap today. Thank you for your time.
Well, thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. So would you please share with us your most recent accomplishment of keeping the city of Boston safe during the last weekend rallies and march?
Yeah, that was challenging, having, the free speech people versus the anti-free speech and some troublemakers who were out there. And our job was to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to voice their opinions, but do it in a way that nobody gets hurt. So our main concern was not to take sides, but just to make sure the whole day goes safe. And, for the most part, we had a very successful day. We had a good plan. I thought the plan worked well, but there were some troublemakers, and we had to arrest 33 people that particular day. But, a lot of planning went into it, and I thought the plan went off very well. And again, I'm just glad no one got seriously hurt or anyone got killed on that day. So that was quite a challenge. I'm glad it's over. I hope we don't have any anytime soon.
Thank you. You were born in Boston.
Yeah.
What it was like growing up in the big city?
Yeah. Well, I was born in South Boston. I still live there. I've lived there for over 50 years, and I've raised my 3 children there. I have a 19-year-old, a 24-year-old, and a 26, and Boston has changed. When I grew up in South Boston, it was a very poor neighborhood. We lived on the second floor of a 3-decker apartment, and I lived with my 5 older brothers. I didn't know my mom. My mom died when I was just a baby, and then I lost a brother hit by a car, and then my father died when I was 14. So my brothers brought me up in the city, and they raised me, and a local priest got me into a good high school. I always say he gave me the opportunity, and thanks to him, I think, he shaped me, and I've done pretty good and they taught me how to study. So, but growing up in the city, it was great. Everybody was close. Community looked out for each other, and looking back, I had a great childhood, despite some tragedies at an early age. Yeah.
But you left Boston for college in Hawaii.
What made
you to move that far away from the city?
You know what it was, honestly? I was living with my last brother.
I see.
Everyone else was married, and he was getting married on August 19th. So I said, I got to go somewhere to live. And my buddy and me on the buddy system said, let's go to Hawaii. And, I got into Chaminade University, and then he backed out. So I went ahead, and, it was quite an experience. And after about 7 months, I got homesick, and I came home. And
Just 7 months, and you have to come back?
Yeah, and I came back, and I had to live with my brother and his new wife, and not long after, they gave me the boot, because it's not easy, and ever since, since I've been about 19, I was out on my own. But, it was a good experience going away to college.
All right, let's talk about your career. I believe that you started out at the police cadet in 1980.
Yeah.
So it's been 37 years.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your career and to take you this far?
Yeah, 37 years from the lowest level to the highest level, and a lot of challenges. But I always say there's not one day that I've gotten up that I haven't wanted to go to work. It's been a very rewarding profession. I love being a patrolman, out there answering radio calls, working with all my fellow officers. Then I became a sergeant for like 5 years, a lieutenant, a captain, where I ran 2 precincts, 2 districts for 12 years.
At the same time?
No, well, one was out in Austin Bright, and then after that I was down Lower Roxbury, South End.
Yes.
And then I became a superintendent in charge of the whole uniform branch, where I dealt with Occupy Boston, the marathon bombing, and a lot of challenges. And then for the last almost 4 years now, I've been the police commissioner. So I've done every job, I've taken every exam, and I got a great department, and I'm so proud that of the job, not only this weekend, but the men and women of this department do every day.
So which role or rank is your most favorite one?
Well, I think patrolman was. I really liked being out, answering the calls, the camaraderie. You're really in a position that you really get to help people. And I've gone to all kinds of calls, from homicides to robberies to getting people's raccoons out of their houses, getting bats out of their houses, helping the elderly when they're falling out of bed. There's so much variety in that, in a patrolman's job. And it was a nice way, people come on this job, I think, to make a difference. And more than anything, I found at that level, you can really make a difference in people's lives. And their perception of the police department is basically shaped on that first interaction with the policemen out there. So that's why we work so hard to make our officers, good community policing officers.
We know that you are the most accomplished marathon runner.
Yeah.
How many times that you have participated in the marathon running?
I've done 52.
52?
Yeah, I've done...
Throughout the country?
Yeah, I've done 19 Boston marathons. I've run Chicago, New York, Maine, Quebec City, Washington, D.C. I went to London, ran the London Marathon. I'm getting ready on October 1st to go to Minnesota and
For another
run
marathon.
the Twin City Marathon with my son. Now my son, who's 24, he's into running. So he asked me to go to...
Is it his first time?
No, he ran Boston with me
I see.
this past year, and now he has the bug, so he wants to keep running. He's talking about running New York, and I've done New York 4 times, so it's a good way to get away from this job. There's a lot of stress, and I always tell people that's my relief. If I can get my run in, I feel my day is complete.
I think that's the best choice. Commissioner, I remember that in 2013, when the Boston Marathon, you were there as the runner.
Right.
And I remember that you crossed the finish line at 1:34 p.m.
Yeah, right.
And about an hour later, the bomb went off.
Right.
Can you share with us a little bit on that day, because you were superintendent for the Uniform Patrol
Right.
Force in the Bureau of the Field Services.
Right.
Where were you at that moment, and how your day went, and what did you do on that day, sir?
Well, I had ran the race, but all week before then we were planning for the marathon, and there was no threats to the race. So that morning I got on the bus, went up to Hopkinton to start the race, and I left my chief in the department in charge of the race. And I had finished it. I did the marathon in 3 hours and 34 minutes, which 1:34. And I had gone home, and my wife and child were at the finish line. It was such a beautiful day. The crowd was so joyful, and couldn't ask for a more perfect day. And I went home, I dropped my wife off, and then I went down to a local athletic club, the Boston Athletic, and was in the hot tub when someone ran in and told me, hey, 2 bombs went off. And I hopped out, took a quick shower, drove home, which I live in South Boston. I was able to get my uniform on, and I was right back to where I had just run down the street. And I always say, to see the destruction and the tragedy that I've seen is something that I'll never forget. I went from seeing a beautiful day go to a tragic day, and from that point on, I worked, took control of the scene as far as the patrolmen go, and I didn't go home till 10 p.m. the next day. We just worked all through the night. We had to lock down the scene. We had to put all our officers on different shifts, and so we had to collect all the video. It was a lot of work, and all throughout the week, I was the incident commander on the ground, and we had President Obama and his wife come into town on Thursday. We had to prepare for that. Then they were going to 5 hospitals, and so the whole week was a challenge for me. Probably the hardest 5 days in my whole career. And actually, when the Watertown shootout happened, I was out there, and I took control of that scene. And from 1 o'clock in the morning till when we captured him about 8:39, I ran that scene out in Watertown, and we were actually the first ones on the boat when we captured, the suspect in the boat.
Watertown.
Me and 2 of my lieutenants, we seen him in the boat. We seen him poking at the top. So us 3 were the very first ones there. And we were working with the FBI, their hostage recovery team, and a lot of other agencies. We were able to capture him. So that whole 5 days went from me running the race to me being helpful in capturing them at the end. So it's 5 days that, I'll never forget.
So after the Boston Marathon bombing in 2013, have you ever participate again in the Boston Marathon after
Yeah,
that, sir?
right after that, Commissioner Davis left, and I became the commissioner. So for the next couple of years, I had to work the race because we didn't know about the threats. I wasn't secure in going up to run. I wanted to make sure everything went well in the city, but this was the first year, this year, 2017, that I went back to run the race. So I ran it this year. I think I did it in 3:50 this year, which obviously I'm getting older, I'm getting slower, but it was nice to return to the race and show everybody that we're going back to normalcy here, and that if I can run and I feel secure enough that I can, everyone else should feel secure. So it was nice to get back out there. It was nice to, finish it after what we went through in 2013.
Let's talk about the Part 1 crime.
Yeah.
It has been tremendously reducing in the crime of the city of Boston.
Yeah. Well, again, Part 1 crime is the most violent crime. That's homicide, that's robberies, it's car breaks, it's house breaks, aggravated assaults, and over year to date this year we're down 7% on all Part 1 crimes. Last year I think we were down 6%. The year before that we were down 9%. So I think over the last 3 or 4 years we're down almost 25%. So we continue to drive the numbers down. The only issue we've seen is it's because we've been lowering the shootings and the homicides over the last couple of years, that this year we see a slight uptick. And we realize that, there's a certain point when the numbers get so low, you hope it never happens, but eventually they're going to go up.
Certain month of the year is
Right.
just
So
back
this
up.
year we're up about 6 homicides for the year. I think we're up about 30 shootings, non-fatal shootings. So we're seeing a slight uptick, but the good thing is, especially with the homicides, we've been solving almost 73% of the homicides. Non-fatal shootings are a lot more difficult because no one wants to cooperate with us, and we're continually reaching for the public to help us. But, Boston is probably one of the safest big cities in America. I look at Chicago this weekend. They had 63 people shot and 8 killed just this weekend. That's almost our year totals, or at least half of our year's totals. So, Baltimore, St. Louis, other major cities have experienced sharp increases in violence. We're up a little, but we got it under control.
What is your concern that it keep you awake at night?
Well, that demonstration this week kept me awake for like 6 days until that was over. But the biggest concern I have is when I lay down every night, I just hope nobody gets shot. And I sort of go to sleep half asleep, hoping my phone doesn't ring that we lost another young child to violence in our city. And obviously, the biggest concern is we don't lose one of my officers to violence. That's what keeps me awake. And also hoping that my officers never have to use deadly force on anyone. So shootings and violence like that, that's what keeps me awake. I don't want anyone shot. I don't want our officers ever have to use deadly force. I just want to be able to sleep through the night and not be bored. But when I go to bed every night, I worry about shootings in the city.
What are your expectations from the Vietnamese community to help you alleviate your concern and to help to keep the city of Boston safer and reduce the crime?
Well, it's working with us, which I know Captain Conley has a great relationship. I know Tram Train's been with us for 23 years to make inroads. And basically, the important thing is for the Vietnamese community to know that we're here for them, and they can trust us, and they can help us keep not only Fields Corner, but wherever the Vietnamese community is, that they can count on us to be with them. And you hear a lot about immigration and everything else. I always say we're not the immigration police. Nobody has to fear us, but we count on the Vietnamese community to be our partner in fighting crime, but also as being important community members. And they shouldn't be fearful of the police. We're here for them, and so the Vietnamese community plays an important part in this city to keep us safe, and also to help us come up with innovative ways to do better things with the Vietnamese community. I know Tram has done a super job. I know she works with the elderly, she works with the youth. You know, she does so much to bridge the gap between the police department and the Vietnamese community.
Commissioner, thank you so much for your time and being here with us, and we wish to see you back in our studio to share and to update in us. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you
sir.
for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cảm ơn quý vị đã theo dõi chương trình Bridging the Gap ngày hôm nay. Kim Loan xin kính chúc quý vị một tuần lễ an lành và hạnh phúc. Xin hẹn gặp lại quý vị trong những chương trình kỳ tới. Xin cảm ơn.